Hello, everybody. My name is Shannon, and I am a first-year internal medicine resident. And today we're going to be talking about shadowing. If you don't know me, I am a full-time resident and content creator. I love to share on my platforms my journey into medicine, as well as tips and tricks so that you can get into medical school and achieve your dreams of becoming a physician. Today, we are going to talk about shadowing, the importance of it, ways you can get shadowing, and what shadowing abroad is like. Shadowing is so important and a requirement of the medical school application. Admission committees want to use shadowing experience as a marker to indicate a few things about you. One, they want to understand and acknowledge that you know what the role of a physician is, what they do in a healthcare team, and how they deliver care to patients. The second thing that's super important is you'll get to witness firsthand how physician and patients interact and their relationship. Shadowing is such a unique experience, different from volunteering at a hospital or working as a healthcare entry level job, because rarely do you get to just observe and reflect on the way physicians and patients interact with one another. We will be doing this through an interview style. Our sponsor today is Atlantis, a shadowing abroad program that allows pre-meds and pre-health students to travel the world as well as learn about medicine through a different healthcare system. So today I have the honor of interviewing Tasia. She is a first year medical student right now and also a Atlantis alumni. She's going to be sharing with us about her experiences with shadowing and shadowing abroad. So I'm going to give the floor to Tasia. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be a physician.
Awesome. Well, thank you. As you said, hello everyone. My name is Tasia Garrick. So I'm a first year medical student at Florida State University right now. It's been crazy, but it's exciting. So a little bit about me. So I actually didn't always want to be a doctor. I actually started off at the University of Florida as a business management major. Oh. So I wasn't even on the medical school path, but through COVID and being an orientation leader and just my involvement with students and being like a counselor to people, I decided that business wasn't really the route that I wanted to take. I actually wanted to take more of a just more of like a personal, intimate position in people's lives. So I wanted to do counseling. So I actually switched my major to psychology. And through that, I learned more about people, but also neuroscience and the brain. And that really excited me. So after some long consideration, lots of advice, I decided to switch to psychology on the pre-med track, which led me to where I am now. So yeah, that's very, synopsis of it. But yeah, so I actually ended up switching to psychology on the pre-med track. I don't actually want to do psych necessarily. I'm very open. But yeah, I just really love people, getting to know people, empowering people with knowledge. And that's something that I have sought to do throughout my years in college and now even as I'm in medical school. It's something I've been really passionate about. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my med school journey. So yeah, I just really am excited to learn more. There's so much to learn about the body. It's been crazy so far, but learn more and then use that to empower people in their pursuit of health, mental health, spiritual health, physical health, like all of it, because I think that's really important. So yeah.
Did you face any hardships getting into medical school?
Very good question. So I would say a big thing is, when you're in the pre-med track in college, it's like, oh my gosh, are you on track? Are you on track? Did you do this? I had a whole year of business classes. So I was here like, okay, I know my economics, but what do you mean chemistry? And I love chemistry and I loved all that stuff. But I feel like a big challenge, I feel like a lot of people who are even on track feels like, oh my gosh, am I good enough? Did I do what I need to do? Do I have enough hours? Do I have enough research? Because you have to build your portfolio, but it also has to be custom to you. So I feel like a struggle that I had, well, COVID, that was huge because shadowing was really hard to find. That was a big thing, actually. Getting all the components to be a medical school applicant was hard during COVID. So I think that was actually a very big struggle that I had as I think about it. And that contributed to being like, okay, I'm a year behind. and I can't get shadowing, or I'm having a hard time finding research and nobody wants me in their hospital. So I think that was a big struggle. Actually, but there are ways to overcome it, and that was good. So Atlantis is one of them. Little sneak peek. But yeah, so that was a struggle. I think just like feeling like I was good enough. I think that's just a thing that everybody experiences. Like, oh, did I do enough? And was my MCAT score high enough? Like, did I do this? But thank God it all turned out.
Medical school admissions are trying to screen for, strong applicants, and they want to see passion in people. And unfortunately, these are some of the things that, they look for. Why do you think that shadowing is really important for a medical school application?
Application in general. It's kind of like you're job trialing it. Like you're seeing what a doctor actually does and you're like, is this even what I want to do? And that's what shadowing was for me because thinking about like COVID, I'm taking classes, I like chemistry, I really do. I love biology. I think this is cool. But I'm like, all right, but as being a physician, what fits for me? Do I like this lifestyle? Something I can handle? And honestly, you find that out more as you do more things, like when you actually work in a clinical setting. But I think shadowing is like one of those steps that you take to start to see, does this fit the lifestyle I want? Because then you'll get to ask the physicians, like, what is your actual lifestyle like? How did you get here? And you get to learn more because I mean, it all feels just it's all an idea until you actually see what is it like practically, and this is something I actually want to do. So I think that's why shadowing was important to me. Like I said, being in COVID, like I virtually shadowed for a little bit, and that's where I just like got to talk to people or see people telling us about their day to day, but like to actually be in the day to day of like a physician or anything like that is really important to solidify that this is what you want to do, along with other things. But yeah.
I guess, you touched on it a little bit about how COVID made it very difficult to find shadowing opportunities. Tell me more about, like, what difficulties you faced when trying to find shadowing opportunities.
Obviously with COVID, there's so many people in and out of hospitals, but just a lot of in. And of course you want to quarantine, you don't want to expose yourself more. It was just locked down. And like I switched to the pre-med track smack dab during COVID. Like sent home from UF. I'm like about to take my like I think it was like about to take a managerial accounting, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I was like, I want to try something else. And then through that is when I got on the pre-med track. You could try to reach out to a lot of hospitals, and I tried, but well, they just weren't taking people, and I respected that because I was like, yeah, like I wouldn't want to have that either. So as like COVID continued, I did find a virtual shadowing opportunity, which was awesome at UF. It was mitigators. It was just awesome because like I was like, okay, now I can kind of see this is what they're passionate about, this is why they do it, but still, even so, I was like, I'm not in a hospital, though, I'm not, like, seeing what the day-to-day looks like, what their breaks are like, anything like that, and in general, I know that it's hard to find shadowing, like, I have friends who were doing pre-med before I started having trouble finding shadowing because
And I think it's also, it's hard when you are a pre-med student and physicians are kind of very far removed from their training. It's hard to find those connections, right? One of the other things is that most of the time it puts a lot of pressure on the pre-med to cold call, cold email, trying to find these opportunities. And sometimes, physicians, they have their own patient panel that they're worrying about, and they're not really able to offer that opportunity for people. With all that being said, how did you come across Atlantis?
the year before I actually went on the program, I had a phenomenal academic advisor, pre-health advisor at UF, who helped me switch to pre-med. And she actually was the one who told me, like, hey, like, would you be interested in like going abroad and shadowing? And I was like, yeah, I would. Because Spain, so I love Spanish. It's one of my goals to be fluent. Kinda we're working on it right now. It's a little lot in that school, but yeah, it's one of my goals. I've always wanted to go to Spain, always. So when she asked me, I was like, "What do you mean shadow and go to Spain?" Like, that just didn't seem right. It didn't seem like it made sense to me. Um, but then honestly, my advisor, I really trust her. So when she was telling me about it, walking it through, it was actually a collaboration between UF and Atlantis. So I got to learn about that and how it would work with my schedule. So that's kind of how I ended up finding out about it. And UF kind of had their own like application in itself to like because they were collecting students to go on the Atlantis program. So they had their own vetting system that they went through. So I went through that and it worked out and that was awesome. So yeah, that's kind of how I found out about it. And it just really lined up because I remember when it was in the summer. So during summers, you're looking for things to do, shadowing. And I like I said, like when I was a business management major, I was going to go to Spain. Like that was my goal anyways, but then I switched. And I was like, oh, I guess that's not happening anymore. Okay. So this was like an amazing thing to just come back around and be like, okay, well now you can go to Spain and you can get hours. So that was really cool. But yeah, that's how I found out about it.
That's amazing. I think it's really cool that, Atlantis is a program where you can register and apply on your own accord. And it also seems that they partner with schools. Like they basically build this partnership with the schools to allow students to go on these amazing experiences. How were you able to kind of afford the Atlantis shadowing opportunity? A lot of students, when it comes to shadowing abroad, that's one of their biggest concerns when it comes to monetary cost.
Very good question. So yeah, studying abroad is expensive. So that is, yeah, it is expensive. And it's something that you do, that I did because it was always something always wanted to do. For me personally, since it was through my school, I was able to use school scholarships a little bit. Like I was seeking scholarship as much as I could. So I like contacted my school study abroad office and I was like, "Hey, do you have anything to help? Because it's expensive." And they were able to provide some help. So I know that we usually recommend talking to a pre-health advisor and seeing if there's any like shadowing for pre-health students is very rare. I mean, not shadowing. Studying abroad for pre-health students, anybody on the pre-health track is just not really a thing that fits into your schedule. Because usually when you're doing study abroad, it's usually for like if I stuck with psycho or business, like there was a program to specifically take me to businesses abroad. So it just depends. Like there's more, like you said, focused subjects that you'll go ahead and study abroad. So finding study abroad for pre-med students was very like niche. So I went to my pre-health advising office and I was like, "Do you have any scholarships?" So that was a way that I got some funding. Um, and then also I did work a good amount to try to afford it. I knew about the program in advance, like a year. Like I knew I wanted to go on it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to save for this. I'm gonna have to make some time for this. If this is something I really want to do, like I said, going to Spain was always on my heart. And I was like, I can do that and get shadowing. I think this is what is good for me. So I did decide to like start saving up money, seeing what was possible. And that's honestly how it worked for me. Reaching out to my school, working hard at work, which I was doing a clinical experience as my work. So it was doubling. I was like, okay, this is good.
Mhm. And I think for most students, it's a very daunting task because you're being asked to come up with, a reasonable amount of money to cover the travel, the food, all of the expenses that you will spend on the trip. When you put that burden on yourself, it can be kind of intimidating. But I think Atlantis does a really good job of helping you figure out ways to pay for the cost, and you were also creative in your approach to asking your school and also finding a job that will benefit you in terms of clinical experience and having enough funds for the shadowing opportunity. Now getting to the really important things is, what were some of your most memorable experiences shadowing abroad?
Yeah, so going to Spain was actually my first time out of the country ever. So that was really cool. And I think Atlantis did a good job because it was my first time out of the country. They did a good job of like guiding me through it. Like they gave us like we had pre-departure calls. We had like we could ask our site manager. Site manager is the person who like kind of orchestrates your trip on site. We could contact them, ask them like, what is this like? What is this like? So I feel like pre-traveling, it's very nerve-wracking. Like I'm going to another country for 4 weeks. This is crazy. Um, but I think what made those experiences just extremely memorable was that I prepared myself to go abroad, and that meant like just getting to like land in Spain and like seeing the airport was super exciting. Also the train system is really great. So I was in Vigo, Spain. I actually got to take the train one weekend with some friends to Porto in Portugal, and that was awesome. So seeing other places, I think that was really cool. It's so hard to pinpoint my most memorable. Every Friday, you go on excursions with Atlantis. So that's like included in the cost of the program. So you pay for it and you get to go. And I just think they did a really good job with the excursions. I got to see Spanish castles. I got to see the most beautiful beach in the world. Um, I, it was just really cool. We got to do a Spanish escape room. So there's just like a lot of things that you just get to do while you're there that I really enjoyed. And then also hospital experience, of course. But as for someone who never traveled abroad and it was very daunting, I think they did a good job of, like, kinda laying out what like, I wasn't just lost and like, "Oh, what do you do now?" I personally had a lot of, just support through that, so I thought that was really cool.
I really love that, because those are kind of memories that you will take with you. Traveling, it's always a great experience to learn about other cultures and understanding the world from a different point of view. What was the hospital that you worked at like?
Yeah, so at the hospital so I went on this program for 4 weeks. On the website, there are trips that are from 1 weeks, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, 5 week to multi-country, like, it's very customizable, whatever works for you. So that's also something to keep in consideration as you're, like, budgeting and figuring it out. You can plan and be like, "Okay, a 1 week or 2 week program works for me, and I really want to shadow another country, this will work," kinda thing. So every week you're there, you get a new specialty. So I was there for 4 weeks, so I got a different specialty every week. So I got to see ER, neurology, ICU, vascular surgery. So those are like my 4 specialties I got to see. And the hospital that I was at was, like, pretty big. It was very cool. It's called Alvaro Conquero, that's what it was called. And it was a beautiful hospital. I really enjoyed my time there. You get to take, like you just follow that doctor all like, different doctors, honestly, in that same specialty, like, every day. So, like, got to take, like, breaks with them, coffee breaks, just got to learn about what it was like to even approach medicine in Spain. So I think that was very memorable. Neurology was my favorite specialty I got to shadow, which is funny because I really love neurology. But it was just very cool to see the consultations, like things that I learned in my cognitive psych class, they were using to test patients with Alzheimer's. I saw how, like, how you just talk to a patient. It was just seeing them deal with things that were consistent throughout the patient's life. Like, I can't just talk to you and make this okay. Like, we're gonna work on it. Like, we're just gonna talk through it. And I liked seeing that perspective. You get to see surgeries. I did get to see a couple awesome surgeries, actually. Toe amputation, crazy. It was like one of my first surgeries I got to see, and I was someone who never saw surgery before. So I feel like there's just a lot of room to like you can make requests. So I did request neurology, and you don't necessarily get all your requests because it just depends on what that hospital has. But even like seeing even seeing things I didn't think I necessarily like wanted to see was cool because I was like, wait, actually, this is really cool. Just a very eye-opening experiences in the hospital, and, the doctors were just, like, very willing to teach as well. So yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, some of these specialties are very difficult to shadow in the US. In addition to learning about what the physician did you take away anything from their patient interactions?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, in Spain or I always like, before I ever went to Spain, I heard of, like, the kiss on both cheek, like, that kind of thing. Like, it's just compared to, here in America, it's just way more physical. Like, that was what I was picking like, before I even went there, that's what I was picking up. But then when I was there, I saw how it bled into the way they did their patient care because I feel like they just treated their patients as they were, like, family, and I think people do that here. So, it's not like you can't see it anywhere, but it's just very consistent through the doctors because that was their culture. So I thought that was really cool. Just the way they interacted with the patient. I just thought it was really beautiful to like see that because yeah, because I think it just did a lot to making the patient feel really comfortable. And I thought that was really cool because it was something I knew about the culture from a distance that I got to see bleed through the way they interacted with their patient and cared for their patient. So more physical, not really, yeah, and that was just the normal. That was just the normal. And I was like, that's cool. So I really loved that, actually. I thought that was a really cool takeaway from it. Um, and I just think in general, like I said, neurology really impacted me because dealing with patients with Alzheimer's, just like there we're just talking about how we can be preventative at this point and how we can, just manage what we have going on now. And I think like seeing those physicians make their patients smile, and just the way they approach them physically, I think that was just a really cool thing to see.
And did you feel like there was like a language barrier between, you and the physician as well as the patients?
Yeah, so the physicians themselves, they do speak English to different degree, honestly. Like some physicians were like really good, some were like they work with you though. So everybody works together, which I thought was really cool. But for me personally, I love Spanish and I was there to like learn. You don't have to go there to like you don't have to know the language of wherever you're going, but I would say that I enjoyed getting to experience the language and learn from it because that's what I wanted to do. That's why I went there. But for me personally, the patients themselves don't necessarily speak English at all. Like I just did not have that expectation. But I thought what was really cool and what's made the doctors really special is that they would tell you. Like you can, you listen in, you're there, I would watch the interaction, and then after I'd be like, so what was that about? And then they would want to tell you because they know what you're there for. So I thought that was really cool. So I definitely didn't go into with the expectation like everybody's going to know English. No, but I thought it was a really good learning experience, and I got to really collaborate with the physicians. Um, and I really, really liked that. So, and the doctors, like I said, were willing to like tell you what was going on in the room, so you're not completely lost. And I didn't feel like a bother when I'd be like, so what did you say? So yeah, but it was a really good like I said, I want to learn Spanish, so kind of worked out. But if somebody didn't know the language, I think it also is still an opportunity where you can get a lot out of it. Yeah.
Right. And as a future physician, we often have patients that we don't speak the language with, we don't
Yeah.
know their culture. And so I think having this experience early on is really a lesson in cultural humility. And how do you talk to patients if you don't understand, their language or their culture? I think these are all positive attributes that you can say about shadowing abroad. How did you feel about this experience shadowing abroad in terms of strengthening your application?
Yeah, so a big takeaway from medical school and like being here now, talking to everybody, not everybody shadowed abroad. It's not a requirement. Like it's something I feel like when you're doing your medical school application, you're just telling a story that like tells why you want to be here. And for me, different cultures are very important to me. I do want to speak Spanish eventually. Um, this program came about very organically for me. So it just told the story of me like I was a business management major and then I found myself in Spain and it was amazing, and it contributed to me just, like, wanting to know about other people and other cultures and stuff like that. I feel like, that's kinda how it contributed to my medical school application because it just showed that it is something I really cared about, and thankfully, I had the opportunity to go, and it was able to happen for me. So and it just gave me a really easy way to talk about my passion for medicine and for other people because, like, I didn't even name all the things that happened to me during while I was in Spain, but, like, we ended up on the front page of the newspaper because they saw us going on the bus every morning to get to the hospital and learn. And like those are just experiences that are so easy to talk about and seeing a toe get amputated. Like it's just so easy to talk about. And I feel like that's a big thing in interviews is being able to like talk about your experiences in a very organic way that like it shows who you are. And what I got to see. And I'm just very thankful that I had that opportunity. So I think that's how it contributed to my medical school application. It just fit into my story.
How many hours did you end up, logging for shadowing abroad? And was that basically, completed that aspect of your application for you?
Yeah, they say that every week that you're there, you get about 20 hours of shadowing, I believe. It's been a minute. So I personally actually got 96 hours total. And that was really cool. And I put in the time. Like I would like physicians, I would tell them like if you have anything to show me, I'll stay. And that's why I got those extra hours. Did that complete my full like needing for shadowing? I would say it helped me a lot, but I still did get experiences in the US because ultimately the US is where I'm going to practice. But the human body is the human body is the human body. So all the surgeries I saw, it was all cool. But yeah, I would say it helped a lot in like getting my hours, especially because COVID really limited the amount. I had virtual shadowing hours, but now I need to get in person. I also have my clinical experience. So it really helped me get a good amount of hours in, honestly. But I still did get shadowing in the US because I wanted to. And I thought, like, okay, I also want to see how it is here. And I can now compare that from my own experiences and talk about that. So I would say this was just a really awesome opportunity to get some really good hours in.
How often did the Atlantis program get brought up in your medical school interviews?
Every single interview. Yeah, because they're like, "So you went to Spain?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like for me, like I said, COVID, I was business before. This was like one of the experiences. Like I went into this program being like, okay, I have started working at I started working as a medical assistant. That was cool. But I was like, I'm gonna go into this to see like, is being a physician what I want? Like I went into this program being like, do I like surgery? We'll find out. Like, I'm gonna find out, either walk away from this being like, this is what I want to do, or maybe I'll try something else. So it came up a lot in that degree. Because they'd be like, why do you want to be a doctor? And I'd tell that story about like, it's business and I'm here. But then I'd be like, okay, and then I became a medical assistant. And after my virtual shadowing, I got to do in-person shadowing, fortunately in Spain, which was pretty cool.
With any program and traveling abroad, it's kind of scary. I think you touched on it a little bit about how it was your first time leaving the country and you were kind of nervous. I think Atlantis, they do a really good job of supporting students who has never traveled before in terms of logistics like housing, meals. You kind of touched on about their cultural immersion activities, which is where they take you on excursions. So tell me about all of that. Did you feel like you didn't know what to expect going in? Did you have a lot of worries?
Yeah, so as you touched on, first time out of the country, so didn't have a lot to go off of at all. But I think like from the beginning, I think my school plus Atlantis did a really good job. We had a schedule, like Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., you're in the hospital. So like it was good to like I wanted a little bit of structure, but then you did have free time. And we did get to like meet together on like pre-departure calls, to, like kind of get a feel for the other students and be like, okay, so we're all here because we like medicine and we are fortunate and it's exciting. We get to go to abroad and like go see medicine in another country. Cool. So I feel like getting to know like the other students was really helpful. But then getting to talk to past students as well was helpful to hear like what were the excursions like? What did you wear? Like I got to ask questions to be like, okay, like how did this work for you? How have you talked about it? Like, you know what I mean? Like asking those questions to other people also makes you feel a little more secure. Um and then I feel like upon like yeah, the pre-departure calls we had were really helpful. Our site manager on site, the person who orchestrates your excursions, all of that, like it was all planned to a T, and that made me feel more secure as well. Also, the housing was really safe because that was like a concern. Like, where am I going to be living? Like, am I gonna be walking distance, blah, 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 like, from the hospital? Like, all of those things, like, they were able to answer, like, a month or 2 months before the program as well. So that was helpful. So, like and just to answer a question, like, for the housing, transportation to the hospital, we took a bus from our housing to the hospital, and that was, like, provided. Like, we didn't have to worry about that. That was cool. Some of my friends, like, lived close enough to the hospital, like, in a different program, they lived close enough to the hospital so they could just walk. That's awesome. But you have direction with that. Like our site manager took the bus with us. So we wouldn't be like, all right, I'm in Spain now. Where how do I get on the bus? So it was things like that that helped me feel more secure, especially my first like time being away from my family, different time zone. So it's nerve-wracking. That's not even a question. So but I think like there's a lot of fun sprinkled into, like, the time, group meals, like, everything, yeah. So it was really cool.
It can be very lonely going through the your medical journey, and so finding people that are also just as passionate as you, and finding friends. I don't know if you're still in touch with any of the people from Atlantis, or how you're keeping up with them and how they're doing.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny question. During my interview season, so funny, me and one of the people from my program ended up on the same interview, so that was exciting. And then even now, at the medical school I'm at, like, I know, like, a couple other students who went on the Atlantis program, which was really fun because I get to talk about, like, "Oh, that was cool." And we're here. So we made it. So that was cool. So I think it just opens up to like, meeting people who are like, a lot of people are interested in travel, which is cool to get the chance to travel and shadow. That was it. So I think it was just really cool to like I said, one of my like closer friends right now, she went on a program. Just more connections with more people. It's cool.
Looking back at your time there, Would this be something that you would 100% recommend to somebody? And would you do it again yourself?
I would say, yes, I do recommend this, but I would say, like, don't feel like you have to do it to get into medical school. For me, it fit into what I wanted. I always wanted to go abroad. The opportunity came, so I really enjoyed that. And if you're looking for something in a summer and you want to go abroad and you want to shadow and you want to kind of do those things together so you feel productive while you're away, it's awesome. It's a really cool thing to do. And not everybody does study abroad in general. So I think it's just cool to get that opportunity. And I had a great time. I learned a lot. It solidified medicine for me. So would I do it again? Yes. I actually tried to do it again, but I got too busy with applying for medical school. It felt like, wow. So I'm going to Spain, which was a dream, and I'm getting my shadowing hours. I'll take it. If things are in line for you to be able to do it, awesome. I would say do it. It's only made my interviews like, that's something they remember me by. Like, oh, that's a cool thing that you got to do. And you seem really passionate about it.
You know, shadowing abroad should be an opportunity. There's a lot of ways that you can find shadowing opportunities. And like you said, if it fits in your story and if it's a choice that will be favorable to you, I think it's great and it should be available as an option if that's something you're looking for. As we're wrapping up, I do want to ask you, do you have any advice for pre-meds?
Just be genuine. Like, they really just want to see, like, are you a real person who really put in time or did you check off boxes? And like some of it is you gotta do certain things. But like for example, research for me. Like I did research and that was cool, but it's not my favorite thing. So I was honest about that. I was like, I got to try it and it wasn't my favorite thing, but I'm happy I tried it. Cool. That was it. And they took that and they're like, thank you. Like that, there you go. So I think, yeah, applying for medical school is a lot. So I feel like just like making sure that like at being a genuine applicant, like doing things that you're really passionate about. A lot of the things I did were just leadership opportunities that I found interest in, like being a first generation leadership program mentor, being an orientation leader at my school, like things that I just did because I was passionate about it. And then it worked into the reason why, like, well, I love people. So that's why I did those things. And then also I found out that I also loved medicine. So I think just like some people come out the womb knowing, and that's awesome. You can be genuine about that. So just finding whatever parts of the puzzle piece that makes your whole story like fit, I think that's just like do things you're passionate about.
Right. Your journey into medicine, it can feel like a lot of pressure because sometimes you don't have support or you feel like you have to do everything on your own. And so I think, from everything that you've told me, it seems like Atlantis was a way for you to find shouting opportunities, not all by yourself, right? We can all try to, hustle and find all those opportunities, but when it's packaged like this, like a travel opportunity, as well as being the ability to shadow multiple specialties, if you have the means for it, why not, right? I appreciate your time and I hope, that this interview kind of gives light to pre-meds and pre-healths who are trying to find shadowing opportunities, like the value of it, how they can talk about shadowing in their interviews. So I really appreciate your time. If you want to know more information about Atlantis and all of the unique experiences that they offer, go ahead and check out their website, which will be listed in the description below.